Welcome to the Shrink Show.
How would you like to be introduced, April?
Um,
Anybody in particular?
it's a funny thing because I do a lot of things. So I am a human design author and reader, and I'm also a death doula. So I kind of have
I
a
saw
very
that.
mix of things that I do.
Wow, that is incredible. You know what? I think you just introduced yourself. And, for our guests listening, Jamie found April on a podcast group and reached out to her to see if she'd be interested in being on here because she does all the magical things you guys just heard. I'm so fascinated by all of these, but today we're here to talk about human design, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I have a human design book on parenting. Actually have it right here so you can see it. And there's a workbook that's coming out on the 20th of October that goes with it.
That's exciting.
So yeah, I like to work with families and parents and people in relationships with their human design, to help them kind of normalize what we would commonly call the problems, right? Like all of the things that come up and we're like, what do I do with this? Why do I not understand this person? Why do I not understand my child? Like, why are we not communicating? There's so much we can see in the chart that gives explanation and understanding for it, and then we can approach it differently.
How is human design different from astrology, or is it the same?
Well, human design encompasses like part of astrology. So that's part of one of the elements that's in it. It's the Kabbalah, the I Ching. It's got quantum physics. It's got astrology. It's got the chakra system. It's a synthesis of all of these systems, but it's not any one in their entirety. So, we have to give respect and credit to each of these systems, but it's not any one of them. It's all of them kind of in a composite overlaid on top of one another.
Is it a newer, I don't know if practice is the right word, methodology? Is it a newer tool? There you go, tool.
Yes.
Is it a newer tool?
Yeah. So it actually came into the world through a man who went by the name of Ra Uru. And in 1987, he had this experience on the island of Ibiza, and he downloaded this information over several days, and it was like this transmission that he received, and he brought it into the world. He was a manifester in human design, and this was like the big thing that he did. And he actually died in, I want to say 2011. So he's been gone for a while, but he initiated it, brought it here, and it's just kind of gained popularity over the years, and especially I would say in the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I can tell you the first time I heard about it was a previous guest of ours, the love matchmaker guy, Jamie. Oh my gosh. Why am I forgetting? Thomas Edwards,
Yeah.
he brought it up and I was intrigued. And so I took the test to find out, what I am or whatever. I filled out the thing. I don't even remember exactly. And God, there's so much depth to it. So I could see why you would need an entire book on just how to parent.
There really is. And it's interesting because I am very fascinated by all of the personality typing assessment tools and everything, but this is different. So it kind of makes you feel like you're taking one of those, but it's based on your birth date, time, and place, like astrology. So it's where the planets were in the gates of the human design system at the moment of your birth and about 3 months before your birth. So there's a conscious and unconscious side to the chart. And it's not like you get to assess yourself and put yourself into one of the categories within it. It's like astrology. It's like, I'm a Leo. Okay, well, that's when I was born, so that's what I'm going to be. And so in human design, I am a projector because of the day and the time and the place I was born.
So what is, I guess, human design 101? What is a
Yeah, I'm
projector?
so confused. Is it like
Okay.
you do it with your birth date and time and location? Like
Yeah.
like a
So
horoscope?
yeah, so there's chart software. You put your birth date, your time, and your place in there, and it will provide this chart. Um, and the chart, I mean, on this really basic level, it kind of looks like this part in the middle here. There's also numbers that you'll see down. Oops, I can't do that backwards. Down the sides of it that show you the gates and the planets um, of where they were at the moment of your birth and before. And so this gives you lots of information, but at its highest level, it will give you a energy type. So there's 4 main energy types. The first one being the manifester, which is about 9% of the population. They are people here who are here to initiate ideas and get things going. We also have the generators or manifesting generators, and they're kind of broken into 2 categories, but they're a generator type at their core. So we kind of group them into one category, and that's about 70% of the population. These are people who are here with renewable energy resources. They get up and they have a full battery every morning. They use it until it's gone in the day, then they sleep well at night. They don't get enough energy. If they don't use enough energy in the day, they cannot sleep well because they've created all this energy, but it had nowhere to go. So now they're restless at night. So most people are a generator energy type. Then we have the projectors, which are about 20% of the population. Projectors are here to guide the energy, to master systems, and to really, really guide the energy. So they work really well with generators because the generators are doing the work. The projectors are saying, okay, well, this doesn't make sense if we're using our energy for this, because the projector and the manifester and the other type I haven't mentioned yet, the reflector, don't have what we call the sacral energy center defined in the chart, which is where that energy comes from in the generator. We have to be more careful with how we use our energy, right? So there's kind of a more limited source of it. And so we become wise at how to use it. And then our reflectors are kind of here as the barometer of our environment. They are reflecting back to us, what is happening in the world around them. So this is really interesting. And they're roughly 1%, maybe a little less than 1% of the population.
Oh my God, I want to know what my kids are now.
We'll have to run their charts.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So then you as a projector, right? That was right?
Yes.
Okay.
I got it.
Like how does that show up for you? So how, well, I guess, what question am I trying to ask, Jamie?
What does that look like? Like, give examples.
So each energy type has a strategy, a way that they interact with the world. And I think that's probably one of the big parts that is going to be relevant. And if you're new to human design, this is important. So like the manifestor is here to initiate. So they need to feel within them this like inner creative drive. It's like that thing that won't leave you alone. You need to create, you need to do something, you need to take that trip. It's like, for them, that is what they're waiting for, is that calling to initiate. Okay.
So what would be like some, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What would be like some possible careers that would go in line with like a manifestor?
So a manifestor is going to be somebody who's great at starting new ideas. And this could be somebody who maybe is a serial entrepreneur, right? Like they start businesses, they sell them. They start another one, they sell it. So they launch them, they have these ideas, they get them going, but maybe they're not in it for the day-to-day grind because, again, they have only a certain amount of energy for each thing. Then they need cycles of rest. So they could sell this business to a generator who would pick it up and become really great at running this business because that's what they're designed to do, is like really develop their skills around work and create efficiency in that. And then, yeah,
keep going. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
So the generator is here to respond. So they need something to show up in their external reality for them to respond to, which is kind of great because literally anything in your life you can respond to, right? Like you could be driving down the road and you see a billboard for a vacation. You're like, cool. Yeah, I want to go.
Done.
And so they're responding through what we call the sacral response, which is like that gut knowing, that gut level instinct of like, yes, I want this, or no, I don't want that. And so that's really how they make their decisions and is what they respond with. And then the projector needs to wait for an invitation. And so this is really for the big things in life, like where to live, who to be in relationship with, what job to have, things like that. Things are going to be dependent on other people. So, like as a projector, I can take a bunch of classes. I can do all these things. I can create art, can do all the things that I'm interested in myself. But if I need somebody else to go in it with me, like a business, for example, I need somebody to invite me. And that invitation has to be specific. It has to have recognition. So I have to feel seen and like recognized for who I am rather than just embodied to fill that slot.
Nice. Okay. And then the reflectors, is that what's left?
And then the reflectors. So they are,
I love how your voice changed. Like,
yeah. So they're kind of what we call the unicorn in human design, right? Like they're so rare. And when you find them and when you find one that's living in alignment, it's the most magical thing, right?
are they like the gurus and like Gandhi or Mother Teresa type?
No, not necessarily. And actually, it's kind of interesting because most of the time when I find a reflector who does not know human design, there can be a lot of pain in their life. I've seen a lot of addiction. I've seen a lot of just pain and struggle because they don't understand that they are so inherently different than the rest of the population, that they're trying to fit into this mold that we have created that isn't for them. And so they can struggle with that. But once they understand that they're here to be different and that what they're feeling and the pressures that they feel and the thoughts that are coming in from other people are not their own, that all of this external stuff becomes, oh, this is the other, this isn't me. And when they can separate that, then they become this barometer for the rest of us, because when they are mirroring us, we can see in ourselves, like, especially like as a parent, if you have a child who's a reflector and you're seeing a lot of tantrums and a lot of outbursts and anger, it's really an opportunity to turn around and look at yourself and go, who am I being right now?
Oh my God. So
Wait, I have a question. Why are there different percentages? Like, why is that one, there's only like 1% of the population? Is that like a location thing? Or like what contributes to that?
It's not even a location. So what happens is in the chart, there are different configurations that define these energy types. And a reflector has, again, I'm going to show you this. All of these centers, these big shapes, are all white in the chart. There's no definition in them. And that's really rare because as the planets move through the gates, you will find these, I don't know if you can see that, the little numbers on there are gates. And when they are colored in and defined and they link up, they create channels. Wow, I am not good at this backwards. They create channels here, and then that creates definition in each of the centers. So it's really rare that you would have a chart configuration that didn't have definition that created color in each of those, in at least two of those centers. So it's just a really rare moment that happens. It just doesn't happen frequently throughout the year. And so you don't have very many reflectors.
But the place my brain goes is I want to know what like mental health diagnoses the reflectors are often diagnosed with, or, like I'm curious to see patterns. I always like patterns. Even similarly, like numerological and or, astrological, what patterns are there potentially with certain horoscopes? And I mean, maybe there aren't any, but I want to know all of it. Tell me all the answers, Aypril. Tell me everything.
So I don't think that we can correlate it. Like I've kind of looked at it before. I'm like, are projectors more often this, like astrological sign? And it just doesn't correlate that way that I have found. Okay. And again, I haven't done that much exploration.
Quizzes beyond, like, are there other things beyond the birthday and time that make those things, or it's just? I'm still very confused about what it is.
So, okay.
It sounds like
you said like when you're born and then right before. 3 months
So,
before.
right. So, okay, we have all the planets like in astrology, right? And we look at 13 of the planets. Okay, so the sun, the earth, the moon, we look at the nodes of the moon, the north and south node, Mercury, Venus, um, Mars, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto. We look at all of these. And at the moment that you were born, there is a gate highlighting, or a gate in that planet at that moment of your birth. And so that's the imprint that's there. It's kind of like saying, I was born at this date and time, and so my sun sign is a Leo. It's like that, but it's for each of these planets. And then we have, that's the conscious side of the chart. Then we have a mirror of this on the other side called the unconscious. And it is the imprint of about 3 months before your birth, where those planets were in the gates of the human design chart. So there's 2 sets of data.
Oh, so what would the unconscious look like? Like for
So it's going to be the same type of information, but when we're looking at the conscious side of the chart, I can talk to you about the conscious side of your chart, and you're going to say, oh, yeah, I know that about myself. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. That makes sense. And a lot of times when I go to the unconscious, sometimes people will say, I don't know if that's really me. That's saying,
okay.
well, go ask the people that are close to you. And they'll often come back and go, yeah, they actually said that was true. I do that, or I am that way. And I find that the longer somebody lives, the more in contact they become with the unconscious side of the chart. So it's just they've had more years to experience that.
Can you tell me a little bit more about manifesting generators? Because I am a manifesting generator, and I want to know
about herself.
Yeah. So the manifesting generator is, like I said, the generator at their core. So they are here to be that workforce, life force, energy, the doing part of the planet, right? And you're here to, as a manifesting generator, do lots of things. So you can do lots of things simultaneously. You may be somebody who kind of dabbles in a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's kind of bouncing all over and doing several things. You may change careers many times in your life, or you may find one career that you really enjoy, and then you explore all the facets of it.
Yes, this is why I chose social work, because I was like, I can't be pigeonholed. I have to have options within this career field, so I can work with the elderly, I can work with children, I can work with babies, I can work at a hospital, I can work in a mental health facility, I can work at a school.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so it is important for you to be doing lots of different things because you create all of this energy. And I'd have to see the exact configuration in your chart, because some manifesting generators have this connection from the sacral center to the throat, and then that changes things a little bit, where it's like if they're not doing enough, we almost have like a down regulation in the energy where it seems like they don't have as much energy. And it's because they're not doing enough to use up that energy. So it kind of creates this like boomerang effect with the energy there.
I am currently looking for my report, because that sounds like me, but I'm curious of if it is. So how are manifesting generators as parents? Tell me they're the best. Tell me we're the best. My children are so lucky.
Your children, I bet.
Well, okay, first of all, let me say there are no bad charts. I know that sometimes there is this idea of like, oh, I'm not this, or oh, I don't have that. And
it's always greener.
It's not true. I mean, we all have all of the chart. We just experience it differently. Yeah. So anything that is colored in and defined in the chart is a more consistent energy for you. Anything that's white in the chart, you're experiencing through the relationships in your life. So it's going to be variable depending on what relationship you're experiencing that in.
Oh, okay. So the white part is relationship?
And it's where you are learning about that energy through relationships. Yeah. So each of those triangles and squares have a theme. And then the gates on that have individual themes. So like the triangle at the top of the chart is the head center. It is all about inspiration. And then we have the ajna center underneath it, and it's about ideas and concepts. With the throat center, which is about communication and manifestation. We have the G center, which is love, direction, and identity. We have the heart, ego, will center, and it depends on what software you're looking at. So some of these have a couple different names. So this one is about, self-love, and it's about willpower, which can be an interesting one when you're parenting with that. We have the sacral center, which is that workforce, life force energy, and it's also sexual energy. We have the emotional center, which is emotions and creativity. We have the spleen, which is intuition, instincts, fears, and even the immune system's connected to it. And then we have the root center, which is pressure to do. So each of these have a theme. And if we have definition in this theme, it's something that we are learning through our own process in this lifetime. If it's something that's open, one of these centers that's open, it's like my root center is open. So I'm learning about the pressure to do in my relationships with other people.
Oh my God, there are so many layers. So, okay, let's say, like with your book, let's say I find out I'm a manifesting generator and I find out one of my children is also a manifesting generator. Is it like, because I know you said some of it is dependent upon where certain things fall. So if I were to get your book, how would I be able to tell what I need to do? Tell me how to parent, please.
So you would run a chart for yourself and then for each of your kids. And if you were both manifesting generators, it would probably be easier for you to parent that child in a sense because you have a similar energy pattern, right? So you're both designed to respond. You both have these energy themes or these emotional themes of when you are in alignment, you feel satisfaction. And when you are out of alignment, your signal that you're out of alignment is going to be frustration and anger.
Oh God, that's totally my 9-year-old. Yeah.
And so, we look at these emotions and sometimes they're categorized as like the bad or negative emotions. And that's not true. I mean, right? Like emotions are just feelings and we all have them all.
They're uncomfortable.
Right. They're uncomfortable. But that discomfort in human design tells us I'm out of alignment. I'm off my path somehow. So where in my life for the manifesting generator, it's like, where in my life am I saying yes to things I need to say no to or saying no to things I want to say yes to?
Ooh. I feel like, Jamie, you need to become brilliant at human design so you can start using it in therapy. I also think that everyone should have to provide their birth date and time and place of birth in order to start doing therapy. Because I need to know your numerology. I need to know your astrology. I need to know your human design. Let's just paint this picture because it's not actually the DSM that we need. We just need all those things.
Well, I will say I get waves of, I'll be like, wow, a lot of Leos coming in for intakes this week, or like a lot of like numerology, like 4 soul numbers are coming in. So like I'll notice those patterns. I don't think most therapists necessarily look at that, but I'll be like, oh, wow, what's happening in the stars today? Because like, look at all these Aquarius coming in. And like, it'll come in waves too, because that like this, whatever is happening, or like if we have some sort of eclipse and then all of a sudden, I think I texted Angie once and I was like, what the hell is happening? I go, I literally got 6 people who emailed me and all 6 said, I want to do inner child work. And I'm like, that's outrageous. Why? Like within a 24-hour span, I was like, that's okay, everyone. And it was right around it was something the moon was happening. And so just was like, okay.
Yeah, I think it was the portal, the 8-8.
Lions 8-8.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
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 It's really fascinating how that works.
And so now starting to wrap my head around this, it makes so much sense. Because then this sounds like it's just like astrology or numerology, but it's like a different accent, that they're all like saying something. They say it differently. That's really all it is.
Yeah. I believe that that's really true. I mean, there's a lot of these that you could take it to another system. You say, oh, I can see how that lines up. It's like I have a friend who does Akashic readings and the soul readings. And I'm like, yeah, that aligns with my human design. It's probably like 95% the same, just in different language, right? So it's really
I
fast.
do that too. Your friend should be on our show.
Well, she would love that. Uh,
So with your book and stuff, and I know you said you have a workbook coming out. I'm sorry, I am also trying to get my daughter's birth chart because I would love for a little mini, something. But
Much better.
well, actually, as I was thinking, I was gonna start with Juno, but I've been having problems with Iris, so maybe I need to go Iris.
Maybe you should focus on the one that's like giving you some trouble.
I know the one that's getting kicked out of daycare currently, little stinker.
well, the interesting thing is that, like, so I'm also a life coach. And so in coaching, and I'm sure in therapy, you have the people that come in and you can tell that they are empaths. They are just taking on everybody's everything. And in the chart, we can differentiate somebody who is like this true emotional empath, who is here to take in and amplify the emotions around them to understand them. But often what happens is they don't know that. They take it and amplify it, and then they spit it back out at the people around them. So they look like the most emotional people around. They can't hold that energy because their body's not designed to. And then we have the other side of this, and this is like 50% of the population, roughly. The other half of the population has emotional waves that they are moving through all the time. So these waves can be like what we call the tribal wave, which is a ratcheting motion. So it'll be like one little annoying thing at a time. We'll ratchet it up, and then they seem like pretty even keel, and then they just explode, right? And then they feel better, and everybody around them is like, what the hell happened? Like they want to run and hide for cover. And so that's one of the waves. Another one is even keel, and then it has sudden spikes high or really low. And this will look like, oh, I'm so depressed I can't even get out of bed today. Like nothing is worth living for. This sucks. And then they come back out of it. And then maybe a few days later, they're like, let's do all the things. This is amazing. And you're like, what is happening? Right? Like it's just this wild kind of ride. And then there's a third wave that is like built slowly on expectation. So it's kind of like slow rise. And it's like excitement. I'm excited. I'm expecting something. And when that thing doesn't come through, it crashes. And then you hear why do I even get excited over this? Why do I bother? I should just give up. You hear that from kids a lot. It's like, I shouldn't even try.
Yeah.
And so people who have these emotional waves are constantly emitting them out into the world. They're moving through some part of that wave at all times. And it's nothing that they should try and control or to stop. It's just understanding what their needs are, how to get those needs met so that they're not affecting people around them so unintentionally. And then the people who are the empaths can learn to kind of protect and understand this is mine or this is not mine. I have a responsibility here, or I just need to break auric space and leave the room, let this kind of clear out and come back and try again.
So how can you tell all of that? Like, how can you tell an empath on a chart? You know what I mean? That's fascinating to me because that's not something that astrology can do, right? Numerology, somewhat, but I don't know. There's so much depth to this. Well, how long did you go to school for it? Or how many classes how long have you been practicing this to even know all of that?
So it came to me, it came in through an email when I was working in nutrition about 8 years ago. And I was like immediately fascinated. I'm like, what is this thing? I need to know it. And I looked at it and I was like, what the hell does this mean? I was like, I don't understand it. It's so confusing. There's numbers everywhere. There's lines everywhere. There's planets. I don't get it. And I like I wanted to get it so badly and I just couldn't get it. And I was like so frustrated by it. And then like I kept coming back to it. Like I'd walk away and I'd be like, no, I need to try it again. Like there's something here for me and I have to figure this out. And the thing about human design is that you can't just intellectually learn it. It's like you have to live it. You have to decondition from the conditioning that we've inherited and taken on in this lifetime to understand, okay, I'm here and I'm supposed to wait for an invitation. And I'm over here going like, screw that. Like we have to make things happen, right? Like that's what we're told. And so I kept pushing with my energy and I burned out. Like I can't push that way. My energy isn't designed that way. And once I learned, like, take that step back and wait for the recognition, wait for the invitation, it takes a while and it can be frustrating. But when you wait and you align with that, then the good stuff comes to you.
That's amazing, because how different would workforce be? How different would society be? Sorry, my child just came in. How different would everybody feel if they could just align with that? So you're not lazy because you're not doing anything. You know, you just haven't been invited to the right thing, or, you know, you just haven't had anything, you know, enticing to respond to, whatever that looks like. Or you're a reflector and you're reflecting chaos in your life and it's a shit show. You know, like, I was just thinking, if we just let people actually be in the way that they want to be, how different our society would look.
Yeah. And that's kind of the whole point of the parenting book that I wrote, is like, how do we parent in a way that our child needs and in the way that we are aligned in our design, so that we can break these generational patterns of, well, it worked for me, it should work for you, right? Like that doesn't work. Like,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be constantly having these battles with our kids if that worked.
Okay, so I did Iris, my 3-year-old. She is also a manifesting generator. So then, like with your book, utilizing that, how, like, is there something with the numbers or something that I would need to know if I'm looking and comparing the charts?
There's a lot of things, but first of all, do you see the profile?
I do. And I don't know how to share my screen on StreamYard.
No.
I know.
Okay, what is your profile?
Is it the numbers?
The numbers. It's like a number / another number.
Oh, is it just one?
Like mine is 5/2. So there should be 2 numbers.
Oh. Okay. Hold on. I'm not on the right thing for me. Hers is 2-4.
Okay.
Hermit / opportunist.
Mm-hmm.
And then mine is what? What the fuck am I?
1/3?
Oh, I hope you're right, because that would be interesting. Okay. I have, shoot. Oh, 2-5.
Oh, you're 2/5. Okay. Okay. So you both share the hermit pattern. Okay. So the line 2 is like a natural at things. What they do is they go out into the world and they interact and they learn through their interactions they're doing. And then they retreat back into their hermitage. And that's where they integrate their knowledge into knowing. So
Yes.
that downtime is really important for you to integrate what you've learned by being out in the world.
Yeah, that's why on the Myers-Briggs, I'm like half introvert, half extrovert. And people are always like, no, you're all extrovert. And I'm like, no, I'm not actually, because I need that downtime. You're right.
It's really important. And then the other thing about that is that people will call you out of your hermitage when you've been in there for a while. It's like people will start going, hey, where are you? What are you doing? You want to come out? And the other thing about it is that people will recognize that you know things and they will ask you about what you know. And then when you come out with it, but you don't have maybe the proof to back it up or the data to back it up of like where you learned that thing, it can lead you to feel a little bit insecure. And so then you'll kind of shy away from those conversations because you know what you know.
God, you just described my entire life.
But you can't always tell exactly how you know what you know.
I literally say that to my husband. I'm like, I don't know how I know this, but I just know this. And you need to just trust me that I know this.
Yeah. So you both have this pattern, right? So you both have this part. And I guess this kind of correlates the most to like personality in the chart. So this is part of the kind of personality area of the chart, if we want to correlate it with that. And then the fourth line is here. It's called the opportunist, but it's like all of her opportunities in life will come through her network. So she probably will know a lot of people. You know, she'll have a core of just a few really close friends. Those friends will be let in on most of her life things, but she'll have opportunities that come through her network of people that she's met. So jobs or birthday invitations or whatever it is are going to come through that network.
Okay, that makes sense for her.
It's also important for her to know what is coming next. The fourth line is a foundational line in the I Ching, and so it's important for her to know what things are going to be like. So if you're going to go to a new event, she's probably going to ask you things like, well, who's going to be there? What's it going to be like? What should I take?
Yes.
How long are we going to be gone?
And so are these numbers associated with manifesting generators, or is that profile number for all of them?
They're for any of the energy types.
Okay. So like if you were a 2-4, it still is that hermiting. You have to take what you learn and go in, and then it's the networking.
Yeah. And so you can see that these profiles kind of have opposites, right? So the hermit needs to like learn and retreat and integrate that knowledge. And then the fourth line is bringing her out into people.
Yeah.
And so for you as the parent, understanding that she needs to have that information. If you're going to take her into a new situation, the more information you can give her up front, the more secure she's going to be, the easier she's going to go into that transition.
Okay. Maybe I'll tell daycare. Maybe they can help.
And telling her, you know, like, this is what is going to happen. This is who's going to be there. This is what you should take.
Okay. I love that. Okay. So then me as the 5, what's the 5?
So the fifth line is the heretic. And so I kind of chuckle at this because I have the 5-2 profile. So it's yours, but reversed. And so the fifth line is, this is complicated. This is probably the most complicated one. There's many elements to this, but the fifth line is the person who is kind of like the teacher, right? Like you gather the knowledge, you have the information, and you're here to universalize and share it. But people will see that in you, and they will reach out to you and say, hey, you know about this. What do you think I should do? Or we need help with this. Come help us, save us. There's almost this like rescue me quality to it. And people, there's a big projection field here. And so people will project onto you that you can save the day.
And then fucking get pissed when I can't.
Yes. And so if you, and here's the tricky thing is like, it feels good to have people feel like you can do things. And so if you step into that and you're not confident that you can do it, your reputation can suffer if you don't go through and like pull off whatever it is that they're expecting you to do.
I'm just tired of making decisions all day, every day for everybody. Oh, okay. So this is so good. So then my kids probably ask me all the time because they want me to teach them, which is why I'm losing my mind because there's no downtime. They're all asking me all the time.
Yeah. And I think the biggest part for me in understanding the fifth line profile created a lot of peace in my life is that there's a karmic, it's like the karmic mirror is what we call it. So you hold up a karmic mirror for people. People come into relationships with you, and whatever their crap is that they're bringing in, it's going to be projected onto you.
Oh my God.
You're in her numerology numbers. She's nothing but mirrors.
Yeah, my numerology number is also a 3, which is another mirror.
Yeah.
Great. This is why I've had to come into my own power.
Yeah.
And know what I know, that I know it, and trust that I know it, regardless of the reaction of others. And it has taken me 41 months, 41 years. What is it? My birthday's coming up in a month and a half. So 41 years, 10 and a half months to figure this out.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. And I think that for me, like I had a lot of relationships, like friendships even, that kind of imploded. And it was like all this projection of you did this, you did that. And I was like, what? I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, that is literally the opposite of what happened. And
Totally.
and then you start going into like, am I losing my mind? Like,
Oh my God. Yes.
yeah. I mean, I
Yes.
have gone back to your messages. I like somebody else read this. Tell me that this, how do you read this? You know, because you're like, this can't be.
I have seriously done that same, like what, I don't understand how people continue to misunderstand me. Like, I'm saying exactly what I want. Very clear, very concise, very much with love. And yet somehow somebody's like, fuck you. And I'm like, whoa, all I did was ask for a burrito. I'm sorry. Like
Right.
Exactly. And so that's the karmic mirror. So when you understand that, you can go, oh, this is their wounding. This is their shit. And they're projecting it at me. I am just holding up this mirror for them to see what their work is to be done. And if they choose to see it, great. They get to go do that work. If they choose not to see it, I don't have to be your whipping post.
of course you're a life coach. And I actually do life coaching now too, because I don't like therapy because I don't want to deal with insurance. But that would make so much sense. Oh my God, Jamie, I want to know what you are.
Okay, so I did it when you guys were talking because I wanted to play.
Yeah.
I want to play. So mine says I'm a projector.
Okay.
And well, and Angie, I giggled because in whatever Google thing I did, it said projector hyphen the seer, and I was like a seer in a past life. So I was like, oh well, obviously,
Obviously.
So well, and we did this with I think a few other folks who did like numerology and other things. So explain why what you just explained about Angie, how like people project and she's a mirror. But Angie and I we've been like close friends for years now, and we've never had that issue. And so we're like, why is it that we can do this, but like other people are like, screw you, Angie, you're the worst. Like she's just blah blah blah.
But they're never like that with you. And you could never do anywhere else.
We giggle about it because we're like, how have we sustained this? I think it says the profile is 5-1.
Okay. So you both have the fifth line profile. You both understand that projection field. You both have had people project onto you in that way.
Oh, that's why I bet anyone with a 5 I get along with super well.
And so for you, the fifth line stuff all applies to you as well. That same stuff that I just said to her. But then you have the first line to go with it. And the first line is the investigator. So that's somebody who likes to research, who likes to get to the bottom of things, who likes to have all the information. And often they can get stuck in this, like, I'm not ready to start yet because I don't have enough information. And so you have to just kind of push yourself beyond that and say, I know enough to get started and I know how to research. So when I run into the thing I don't know, I can find it.
Yes. Yep. That sums it up right there.
I love that. So that fifth line is something you share. And I find that the people that I meet who have a fifth line, we really understand that because we've felt that pain. We understand what that feels like. And so we have more compassion and understanding for people once we know this. You know, it's like, okay, there is this projection field I exist in. And this is just my lot in life, right? Like I get to be that karmic mirror and I get to learn really good boundaries of when I'm going to step in and be a supportive person or when it's crossed a line and now this is not healthy. And so I get to say, this is enough.
Whoa. That's the fuck. Okay. Here's the thing. For anybody listening who has not done a human design chart and is completely unfamiliar with any of this shit she's pulling out right now is literally based on 2 tiny numbers. And I'm looking at my chart and there are like 100 different numbers going on. Like I can only imagine how in depth this can really go.
Right. Which once you do like the personalized, so walk through what are like in how you, April, do your services. Cause you do things like with parents to child or like within relationships. So like would Angie and I be like, here's our chart, like help us work better together as like, co-hosting this, or like just sustaining and like whatever that we're doing in our future, or like Angie gives her and her daughters, and like how would you work through these in-depth, because listeners obviously don't see what Angie and I see, but yeah, there's like a shit ton of numbers. There's all these other words and like this little picture with all these shapes and colors. I'm sure they mean something useful. But it's just for listener to know that like I'm guessing April does a lot with this. So paint a picture of how this looks just with folks who come to see you.
Yeah. Well, it really depends. So sometimes you do a family reading, and that'll be up to 5 charts. I kind of try and limit it to 5. If I have a bigger family, I would do that. It would just take more time, and we'd break it into more sessions.
I want to do one. I want one.
So we want to look at like, what are the energy types within the family? Who needs more rest? Who needs more exercise? First of all.
Oh.
And then we can also look at the people who need more exercise with the defined sacral center. They also need questions they can respond to, which are yes, no, this or that questions. If I ask you, Angie, like, what do you want for dinner tonight? You're probably going to go,
Should get pissed.
I don't know. Like, suggest something, right? Like you're looking for something to respond to. And that's such a big, ambiguous question. It's hard to answer. You may have been conditioned to answer it, but it's not easy for you to answer that. Whereas, Jamie, if I ask you, what do you want for dinner tonight? You need the open-ended question to be able to talk about it and say, well, I was kind of hungry for like tacos, but now I'm thinking maybe pizza sounds better or something, or maybe we just get smoothies, And so you're like talking, and there's this verbal aspect of processing it, and then you land on whatever it is that you need to say. So generators and manifesting generators need yes, no, this or that type of questions. So
having in shock right now, everyone.
Listeners
watching.
Okay, well, here's why I'm in the most shock, because it makes sense. Obviously, it makes sense, but I'm just applying it to my current life, right? And I get extremely frustrated at home when everybody's around, and I always attributed it to chaos. Just I have 4 kids and 2 dogs and a husband, and it's just chaos. But as you're talking, April, I'm realizing, if it causes me to expel energy that I am not wanting to expel by having to answer those questions, I literally have to answer those questions nonstop with every single person in my household. I don't usually get asked yes or no questions. I get asked, well, what about this? What I need you to do this with me, and what do you want for dinner? What do you want to do with this? How do you want to arrange this? I'm like, I don't fucking know, and I will like snap because I'm like, I don't know. Stop asking me questions. And it makes sense.
So here's the thing: the question that we're asking you with the defined sacral center is your energy available for this? So you can ask open-ended questions. Like if you're in a therapy session, you can ask people open-ended questions, but you have to have the permission first, right? So it's engaging that in the beginning. It's like, are you open to talking about this? Yes.
Right.
No. If you say yes, now it's open for discussion, and we can use those open-ended questions. But if you don't have that, you're going to get a lot of frustration. You're going to get a lot of shutdown, and you're going to hit those dead ends, and it's not going to work.
Yeah, like my children, they don't ask me ahead of time. They don't care.
And you also have that second line profile, which needs alone time. It needs downtime. It needs everybody to leave you the F alone. Like,
just that doesn't happen. Yeah. Oh my God. This all makes so much sense. Okay, so can you just repeat all of that for my family and my children?
She's going to call them in, and you're going to say that to them. What questions?
And I interrupted. That was actually super helpful. So we need to be asked with options of what we want for dinner, right?
The generators and the manifesting generators. This or that, yes or no type of question. And then the projectors, the manifestors, and the reflectors need the open-ended questions. We need to talk and kind of process and figure out what we want. And so when I work with clients, this is a big part of what we do. We just focus on these big initial parts. We don't get down into the weeds of like the gates and lines and all of that stuff until we've got a good understanding of this stuff, because this is how you're going to engage with the world. This is the part that matters the most. If we did nothing but follow our type, strategy, and authority, and we haven't even talked about authority, but that's like how we make the decisions. It's like another layer of how we make the decisions. Then the rest of the chart will eventually fall into line. It's great, like mind candy, to know all the rest, and it's fun, and it helps us give context to why things are the way that they are. But like, it's not absolutely necessary that you know all of that.
First of all, I love the phrase mind candy. It might be one of my new favorites. I'm gonna start using it. Second of all, Jamie just did Juno's chart. She's you. So that's not surprising.
Of course. Juno and I are like,
we're both Tauruses.
And explain the authority, because mine says splenic words.
So the authority is like so for you as a projector, you get the invitation, you take that invitation and you're like, do I feel seen? Do I feel recognized? And so the way that you are responding is through the splenic response. The spleen is fast. It's very instinctual. So I think of it as like, a cat in the wild, they have these instincts, and it's like they're on alert. They're always scanning, looking for threats, right? And so when there's a threat, it's like, ooh, don't go there, right? Like, so you get that, no, don't go there. But the like, it's okay is pretty subtle. It's kind of like, things are just cruising along, like whatever, right? So there's no like, yes, do it, right? It's kind of like the absence of the shit, don't go in there is the, yeah, it's okay. And so that's kind of this authority. It's like checking in with that in the moment response. And so because it's instinctual, it's in the moment, it doesn't repeat. So I could ask you 10 times if you want to do something. And each time I ask you, you might give me a different response, because there's different information coming in at each point in time. There could be somebody else in the room and you're like, ooh, doesn't feel safe. Nope, don't want to do it. Now they leave and you're like, yeah, I could go. So it depends on the circumstances.
That makes so much sense. Because then I also get pissed off because I'm like, I don't have all the information. So I would have made a different decision if you would have told me all of the information.
Yeah.
And then I get all bitter about it. Oh my God. That's
so it's an instinctual kind of response, and it's like yes or no, kind of like the Seiko response, but it's a little different because it doesn't repeat. It's always scanning the environment to see if it's safe.
Yeah, it's subjective to that particular time.
God, that is interesting.
Because what's yours, Angie?
Sacral, right? Is that
well? You may have. Is your emotional center defined? Are you an emotional authority or a sacral?
Mine has the thing that says authority, and then there's a word under it.
Or it might say inner authority.
Inner authority, sacral. Definition, single day. Okay. And then there's like incarnation cross and signature, and I don't know.
Yeah. So you are a sacral manifesting generator. So yours is that gut knowing. Is it a yes or is it a no? It's kind of like, if it's a yes, it's a hell yes. And if it's a no, it's a hell no. Right? Like it's a strong response. And there's often like a verbal aspect to it. So you hear yourself say, or yep, nope. There's every manifesting generator kind of has their own way of responding to that. Sometimes it'll be like leaning in or like backing up, and you're like, no. But there's like this verbal quality to it. Or you might be like, shaking your head, or not, nodding or shaking your head.
Would that make me a sire? Like, I'm unhappy?
I don't know. Maybe.
Because I was told within the past 2 years, Jamie, you were a part of that. I think I asked her, I was like, I was told that I sigh a lot. And Jamie was like, yeah, you do. And I was like,
I don't remember this conversation, but I agree. You do. Yeah.
And I notice it now. And I also notice my children, especially my 7-year-old, when she's like overwhelmed or frustrated, she just, and I notice my husband responding to it. I will sigh and he'll be like, what's wrong? What do you need help with? And I'm like, oh, I do sigh a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I could correlate that with the chart, but it's interesting. And actually something you asked me earlier was like, can we correlate diagnoses with the chart, and we really can't. Like the chart gives us a lot of information, but it's not going to be, causative that way. It's like you might see some similar themes, like somebody who has a certain gate in that I'm thinking of in this chart might be the person who is very overwhelmed by all of the information. And we might see this as like an ADHD type of pattern, right? Like there's kind of those characteristics of it, but it doesn't mean that that person has ADHD.
Oh my God, is that me?
It's just an energy pattern that we see happening. And when we understand like what that is, then we can say, oh, okay, I know that this is too much for me. Like, how can I work with this? But it doesn't mean that there's a diagnosis there.
It's kind of similar to how if listeners listened to like our numerology episode, and it wasn't necessarily like it's not good or bad that you're this or this. It's, are you coming at this number with love, or are you coming at this number with fear? And so it's almost like if with this, it's with the energy of like, if I am in alignment, I will be more instinctual. But if I'm not, I will be more like, it might look more impulsive, or it might look more like I'll be bitter because I didn't have something. So it's more just, if I'm in alignment, it's clicking. And if I'm not, then it's my true self isn't coming out.
And that was so perfect, because as a projector, when you are out of alignment, it's bitterness. You feel bitterness. And it's funny because when I heard that, I was like, I'm not bitter. At first, I'm like, I don't get bitter.
And then I'm like, and it said, that's what it literally said in the not self theme for my telltale feeling that happens when I'm not living in your design. And I go, oh, when I get bitter, I'm pissed. Like I'm just like, screw that person. They're done. I'm never going to talk to them ever again. Like I go to a crazy place and I'm like, oh, I'm bitter.
Yeah. And mine's frustration, which makes sense because that's
and
exactly
anger.
Yeah.
So you get frustration and anger. You're the one energy type that gets two, because you get the qualities, some of the qualities of the manifester and the generator. So those not self emotions are frustration and anger. So you'll see both of those together.
This is why it takes a very strong personality to deal with me when I reach that point.
And okay, so here's the other thing. Like as a projector and a manifesting generator, you can work really well together, because while you're sharing space, you're working together. Jamie is getting your sacral energy, the doing energy, to like be motivated and do things. And she's offering guidance for like, how can we do this more efficiently?
It's literally our theme of the podcast. Well, Angie's here with bright noises and colors, and I'm here to be like, so here's an itinerary of what she was trying to tell you.
You're like an interpreter.
Yeah, usually that's what happens.
And projectors are really designed to work one-on-one with people. Like we lock into that person, and it's like, we are sharing this space. I am so into what you are expressing and telling me right now. Like we are in this, right? And like, if you're in a room with like 50 people, it's like, wow, there's a lot happening in here. There's like, can I just find a corner and talk to one person? Like that's kind of what the projector tends to do a lot of times, is like, let me find the person who's going to go deep and get weird. Like, let's just go there.
Oh my God, that's Jamie.
It's totally me.
Like, I don't want these surface conversations. Like, screw that.
Yes,
Get it deep and weird.
Surface conversations. I'm like, what's the point? I don't like it. Because I'm like, I think I was arguing with like another group of friends, and they're like, who is extrovert and who's introvert? And I'm like, I am extrovert, but it has to be deeper though. If you're not ready for that, then like, I'm not going to talk to you. I'll come off as introvert. I'll be like, no, it's not deep enough. I don't have time.
Yeah. And there's actually a channel in the chart, and it's one of my channels. So I say this lovingly. We call it the Genius to Freak channel. So it is one of those channels that is, it's in the individual circuitry. So it is here to be mutative. It is here to change the way we think and the way that we do things and share new ideas. And so if I am invited, if I am recognized and people ask me for information, it can be like, wow, this is amazing. This is great, right? But if I walk into a room full of like dentists and I'm like, hey, you want to talk about human design? They're like, who are you? What are you doing? And I'm like, can I just melt like the Wicked Witch into the floor, right? Like, please get me out of here. So it's that you're a genius or you're a freak. It's like there's no in between.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And where's that at?
It's channel 4323 between the ajna and the throat. So
Wow, those were words.
I'm sorry. So it is like, let's see. It is right up here. I know.
That's word the triangle?
The triangle to the square. It's like the middle channel.
Then how do you tell? Oh, I'm 4323.
Yep. So the genius to freak channel.
Oh, like the light that touches each other in the middle from the triangle to the square?
Which is why I wanted to check, because as you were talking, I was thinking that feels familiar. I am either like, what the fuck is she talking about? Or, God, she's brilliant.
Does it mean something different when there's like a color that touches it? Because some of yours have like,
Is it colored all the way down?
Yeah.
Between? So you have it as well.
Yeah.
So you share that as well.
It's the freaks. But geniuses in this moment right now.
Yay.
But so this is what we call projected energy. This is a channel that is a projected channel, so it needs an invitation. So if somebody invites you to share, asks you for your knowledge, this is where you come off as the genius.
Oh, Angie and I do that. Yeah.
So if you like walk into that group of dentists and you start talking about human design or numerology or something, they're probably going to be like, no, this is not working. Like, who are you? Why are you here?
I've just accepted my freak self and do it anyway. I'm like, no, it's fine. You need it. Listen, Linda, listen. This is so great. And I hope that I know this is a lot of information for a lot of our listeners if they haven't been familiar. And I guess, do you have, Aypril, because obviously I would want listeners to come to you for services and support. And I'm serious when I say I want to book like a family thing. Because
which family, I did a numerology thing for my whole side of the family. So I'm like, I could just give you 15 people. No big deal. You could totally take this on.
Right. Well, and I think for me, the biggest part of that is, though I'm, the teacher, those closest to me often no longer listen to me because they don't, they can dismiss me, but they can't dismiss you. And so it helps with communication, which I very much value, because I want us all to just get along and stop trying to, because we're so often trying to force people to fit into the box that we find ourselves in. And it's like, it's not always the right box for them. That doesn't always fit. So, anyway, what would you recommend for people if they were interested in learning a little bit more about human design, if they want to reach out to you? Like, what is your typical, give me your elevator pitch.
So I would
your invitation.
Run a chart first, understand what energy type you are. My website has some very short blog posts about energy type and profiles and things like that you can just take in a little bit of information at a time. My book was written so that like any parent could pick it up and run their chart and start to understand it. What was frustrating for me was that when I tried to learn this, I signed up for a class right away and I was like, I give up. I have no idea. I don't know this is a different language. I don't understand it. And so I tried to bring it back to like more everyday language and examples of how this plays out so you can understand what it means. So I think that's a great way to start. There's another book by Karen Curry Parker. It's known as the Red Book in Human Design. It's another one that's easy to take in and digest in the beginning if you want kind of an introduction to it. So I would start with something like that.
Because she has a lot of the internet.
Yeah, she does have a lot. It's the Red Book. And I think it's just called Understanding Human Design.
I was kind of hoping that it was called the Red Book.
We'll put it in the show notes for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, my book, I also have a podcast that I just started and released this.
Yay! you.
So the first season is just human design. So if you want to just learn, you look up your type, your strategy, authority, go to my podcast, which is Living Matters Podcast. And you can just listen to those ones that are relevant to you. And they're short. So you can just get a little bit of information and work with that.
I love that.
Just start little, start with one thing and then just see how it shows up in your life. And remember that this is just an experiment, right? It's information. It's not telling you who you are or how you have to be. Every element of this chart is an archetype that can be expressed in infinite ways. So you get to be the creator of your life. You get to decide who you are going to be in this moment. This chart is just showing you a map of what energy is consistently available for you.
Oh my God. In this time frame, I have literally pulled all of my family's charts. And
that's true manifesting generator style right there.
Yeah, because I'm interested and I have to be motivated because who knows when that motivation is going to go away. So I took my friend. I have a storage unit, and I took my friend there, and my husband, because I was dropping something off and picking something up, and my husband said to my friend, "Just wait until you see this storage unit." And I said, "What is that supposed to mean, sir?" And he said, "It's the kind of storage unit you would expect somebody with ADHD to have." Yeah, there are so many begun projects or so many I will soon get to projects shoved in this storage. I was like, oh yeah, that one. That was a project over Christmas break, a year and a half ago, but I didn't get an opportunity to really invest the time. I purchased everything, but I didn't get the time. Yep, that one is project 6 months ago.
That gives me anxiety thinking about it.
Okay.
Wait, I'd throw it all away.
And so here's the thing, as a manifesting generator, how much of that stuff is sitting there tying up energy? There's an energetic attachment to each one of those things. And if you have energy stored in each one of those things, it's taking away from what you have available for right now to create new things, to take on new tasks.
I need to tell that to my sister. I'm going to text that to her.
Right. Oh my God. I never even thought about the energy, because you're right. When you say that, I think, oh yeah, every time I think about it, I think, oh, that's one project that, yeah, I was interested in doing and I still would like to do, but I just don't really have the time or the energy for it. And
So it's learning to quit correctly, right? So am I done with this? That's a yes or no question.
Learning to quit correctly. Yes, I am done with the chairs. I am done with the chairs, April. Thank you.
And if you're not, if you're unsure, it's a no, right? If it's it's a no.
Honestly,
I work on it. Yes,
and that's a good question to ask them, because it's a really personal question when they're trying to figure out how to clean their house. And so I like that question because I can think of a few clients that would like that. Am I done with this?
I also love this as far as it aligns with a manifesting generator with the yes, no, because when I had heard something that you have people ask you yes, no questions, and that's how you can get in touch with what it is you truly want, because it will come up. And when you said, am I done with this? I instantly thought of the chairs and I was like, I am. Yep. I am done with those. As much as I liked that project.
Yeah. And so how much of it is conditioning saying you can't quit? You can't give up on this. You have,
because I spent money in it.
You spent money on it. You invested this in it. It's sitting there. It's waiting for you. There's so many external forces that come in and say, don't give up. You have to see things through. And I think that's one of the biggest things for the manifesting generator is that they've been so conditioned and told that they just quit and they give up on things, or they can't finish. They can't see things through. And it's learning to release that and say, this is who I am, and I start things and I don't always finish them. And that's okay, because I get what I need out of it and then I move on.
God, you're right. Oh, April, you are so good at this.
You should do this for a living.
You should. No, I have had a blast with this, and it, fortunate, unfortunate, you're leading me with more questions than answers, but this is because of curiosity, not because you haven't answered them. And
There's a lot.
I like that. There is a lot, and I can tell you, my household is all manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, and one projector.
Yeah.
I bet you
You
there's
have a
more
manifestor?
Guess, Jamie, guess, because it's what I thought he was.
Yeah, Finnegan.
Oh no, my projector's Beckett.
Oh, I didn't. I thought you meant the manifest. Yeah.
You have a manifestor though?
Okay, so I have Juno is a generator. Iris is a manifesting generator. Beckett is a projector. Okay, so Finnegan, he's my 9-year-old. He's my manifestor. And then Joel, my husband, is a generator. So yeah.
So
He's a manifestor with a 3-5. So he's got the martyr, whenever that is.
yep, that's a learn by doing profile. So that is somebody who has to try things on their own, and especially in a manifestor. You cannot tell a manifestor what to do. Like manifestors kind of parent themselves. They really are like, they need independence. They need to have autonomy. And from such an early age, if you tell them what to do and you try and control them too much, they will create a secret life and they will do the things anyway. They just won't tell you about it. So it's learning.
I need to tell my husband this.
So it's learning to say, hey, I don't know how that's going to work. Let's try it. Or like, I don't know if we should do that. What do you think would be the outcome of that? Like get them to start thinking it through rather than saying just flat out no. And because if you don't, what I see happen is manifestors hit about 11, 12, and then they really start pushing back with that like initiating power and that rebellious kind of behavior.
Ooh, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, they're here to initiate. They're here to do, and they also can look like from the outside, it looks lazy at times, right?
Oh my God.
They just want to lay around and like recharge. They're waiting for that next creative inspiration or drive, and they need to gather energy before they do that.
And you know what? It's so funny because him and my 16-year-old, who's the projector, are both the 3-5, martyr and heretic.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I've got a lot of projection in our house.
Yeah, a lot of projection in your house. I live in a house with 4 people with a 5th line profile, 4 projectors and a manifestor. So there's a lot of projection.
That sounds like an album. That should be maybe the next your next like memoir book, 4 projectors and a manifestor. Insight into the family life and how you use these numbers. Yeah. You're welcome. There you go. Manifested that for you. I invite you to write that book.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, this has been so much fun. I really, really like this a lot. And I am so grateful for you to spend your evening with us. Jamie, do you have any other last questions?
No other questions. We'll link all of your links and the books that you mentioned in this episode info. Are you on any socials, Aypril?
I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook, but in a projector way. So when I feel like it, I'm on there. And when I don't, I'm not. So my website is always there. I reply to emails, but the rest of the social stuff is hit or miss, to be perfectly honest.
We'll plug the website on there too for listeners. Yay.
Yeah. And I hope that this drums up some interest in some business for you, because I really think that a lot of people would benefit from this. And I'm going to tell our listeners, I really am serious about wanting to do like the family thing. So after we do that, I will try in my best manifesting generator self to kind of provide a little bit of feedback or my own experience with that, so that you guys, if you're hesitant, you can read and kind of listen or whatever. Maybe we do another episode with Aypril. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We thank you guys so much for listening, for your interest in human design. And don't forget, Aypril is our guru on it. So, I mean, you can go to a lot of different websites, but there isn't somebody that you have met personally that you can trust. And obviously, we like Aypril, so you should like Aypril. Well, thank you so much, April. I don't leave yet, but we just want to tell our listeners again, we love you. You guys are amazing. Keep doing amazing things. Keep breaking free from that box, and just keep being you. So thank you so much. Bye.
If you think we're cool,
Or even if you don't,
please like or subscribe so you'll stay up to date on all things The Shrink Show.
thank you for choosing to spend a portion of your life with us. And remember, don't take yourself too seriously. Life is all a giant shrink show.
A Huda Media Production.
Side effects of listening to this podcast may include side aches or snorting from laughter, impromptu jazz hands, nodding in agreement even though you might be listening alone, an occasional "you said it, girl," and mild cases of existential dread. This podcast is strictly for entertainment and informative purposes only and is not intended or implied to diagnose, treat, or otherwise substitute for professional mental health, medical, legal, or other advice. Thank you. Unicorn says bye.